News at 9 a.m. on KMIZ with Christy Weeder and Storm Track meteorologist Brittany Beggs. Watch ABC 17 News at noon today on KMIZ, where the news comes first.
Welcome back. We're coming up on 9:13. Right now in Jefferson City, trash is a big topic. We told you just last night, city officials were able to hear from the public on this. The contract with Republic Services ends in October, and the city will be taking bids. Right now, Republic has the exclusive right to collect and dump trash in Jefferson City. Joining me today to talk about this process is 3rd Ward Councilman Ken Hussey. And Ken, thanks so much for coming on today. We appreciate you coming down here to Columbia. Just kind of tell me a little bit about the process so far.
You know, the city's been reviewing the existing contract, and then we'll create a new RFP, a request for proposal. And what that does, that defines what the city is seeking for services. And then we'll send that out to potential vendors that want to give us bids back on that. At that point, we'll review those, evaluate those, and the council will make a decision which direction to go. Now,
could there be a possibility that trash services would be cheaper for people, or is it probably likely going to go up?
Certainly so. You never know until you get the bids back. You know, our hope is to get multiple vendors that have interest. We're exploring a couple different options. Currently, it's residential and commercial all bundled together, one provider. You know, we've heard from the business community about an interest in breaking off the commercial and letting that be kind of open market for the businesses to decide who their provider is. So that could certainly change rates as well, but you never know until you get the bids back.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of business owners do kind of want, more options in terms of trash service. Do you think that's something that it would council would have to decide? I mean, you would have to allow that to happen first, right?
We would put that in the RFP, and most likely we'll offer a couple, like an alternate option within for vendors to bid on a variety of services they could provide for us, and then take a look at the rates at that time.
When do you think a decision on all that issue would be hashed out?
You know, we'll spend the next few months, city staff, putting together the RFP, getting more public input and council feedback. I would say it's probably late April, early May before we really get a draft of the RFP, and then it'll take a few months for that to go out, get responses back. So most likely, I would say mid to late summer before we really are probably close to a decision point, but anything could change too.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, people have a say in this too. You're going to have a lot more public hearings on the issue, right?
No doubt, yes. We had, a lot of public input last night. We will continue. Citizens in the community can contact the mayor or their city councilman to voice their input. They can contact city staff. So we want public input.
Mm-hmm, certainly. I want to talk about another issue also that happened in downtown recently over the weekend. Part of a building actually collapsed on High Street. It was in the process of being remodeled, my understanding, and it used to be Leeds Shoe Store. Is the city council at all concerned with old property and abandoned property downtown? Is this a problem?
Well, there is an abandoned property issue in the community that staff has addressed to identify who those, abandoned property owners are and why they're not, rehabbing their properties or making use. And so it's almost like that's an issue separate probably from the downtown issue. This was, less to do with an abandoned property and more to do with a facade that was on the front covering windows removed, and for some reason, the facade was dependent on those windows to attach itself to the building, and it fell off. So city staff was quick to respond, talk to the building owner, neighboring owners, and including the company doing the repair work. And I think they've worked out a plan to address the issue. The building is structurally sound according to city staff and in the process of being rehabbed. So, this is probably separate from an abandoned property issue in general in the community.
Yeah, and it sounds like they were trying to do work to remodel it, which is a great thing for the downtown area. Is there going to be any, inspections of other properties because of this incident?
I'm not certain. I know that city staff does their best to stay on top of inspecting properties when necessary. They were quick to respond in this situation as well. And so anytime you've got rehabilitation taking place or construction taking place, obviously the city is involved to make sure things are inspected and up to code. And the city does a pretty good job of keeping an eye on other abandoned properties. We're fortunate that nobody was seriously injured, but also happy that there's rehab going on at this property as well in downtown.
Oh yeah, for sure. And also, moving over to the abandoned property issue that you guys are kind of dealing with, a separate issue from the rehabs that are going on. How are you tackling that issue of all those properties that are abandoned? I mean, is it pretty bad?
There's a fair number of them, and unfortunately, some of them are concentrated in areas close to downtown or kind of in the core part of the community. The city keeps record of all of that. There's a fee to pay to be on that abandoned property list, and the city is exploring legal options with one property owner that owns quite a few abandoned properties who also owes quite a bit, back to the city for things, that the city has done to the property to keep it up to date and simple things. But those fees add up and these fines add up, and so the city's looking to recoup those costs.
Oh, yeah, certainly. So probably more on that in the coming months.
Hopefully so.
Always something going on.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now here's Brittany with a look at what's